Hi guys. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favorite movies from the 80s that you possibly may not have heard of and may not have seen. Um, so yeah, these are just sort of 10 movies that I felt went under the radar a little bit from the decade of the 80s, in my opinion. These are movies that I've tried to bring up in conversations about movies and things like that, and people tend to have not have heard of them. So yeah, it's going to be the first of two videos. I'm going to be doing a top 10 from the 80s, and I'm also going to be doing a top 10 movies you may possibly never heard of from the 90s as well. So yeah, these are just 10 movies, in my opinion, that I believe do not get as much love as they should. You may have heard or seen all 10 of these movies, and that's absolutely great and that's absolutely wonderful. But in my opinion, these are just 10 movies that I think just go under the radar just a little bit too much. So, yeah, that being said, I'm going to kick it off with my number 10 pick, and that is My Bodyguard, um, starring Matt Dillon and Adam Baldwin. I think this is a great little movie about bullies set in the 80s. It all follows this young guy who's being bullied by Matt Dillon, and pretty much there's this other kid at school played by Adam Baldwin who is very unhinged. There's a lot of rumors going about him that he's a bit of a psycho, a bit dangerous. Everyone tends to stay away from him. And this young kid that's getting bullied pretty much goes up to him and says, "Look, I will pay you to be my bodyguard and protect me from this bully." And it just leads to some absolutely fantastic chemistry and absolute wonderful relationships blossoming in this movie with friendships as well. And I won't dare spoil what Matt Dillon's character does to try and get revenge. And it is just, it's a great little 80s movie set in high school. One of those ones that, like, it's made this list because it has gone under the radar, in my opinion. And I think it is a great little movie. So, yeah, that's my number 10 pick, My Bodyguard. So, coming in at number 9 for me is The Unbelievable Truth. Now, this movie to me, it's a very, very small movie. It's very grounded in reality, I find. It sort of focuses on this convict who's being released from prison and is coming back to this small town. I think it's where he grew up. And a lot of speculation, a lot of rumors start developing about why this guy was in prison in this small town. Is he as dangerous as he's believed to be? It's very dialogue driven and it's very sort of character driven as well. Very, very small movie, it's one of those movies where not a lot happens, but it's absolutely wonderful for that. And I was just riveted by the shots in this movie, the characters in the movie. I was hooked by the dialogue as well. I think it's absolutely fantastic. So if you've not seen The Unbelievable Truth, I fully recommend checking it out. It's just a great little 80s movie that has a fantastic underrated cast in it as well. So yeah, that is my number 9 pick, The Unbelievable Truth. So coming in at number 8 for me is Lean on Me, starring Morgan Freeman. Now, I was blown away by this film. I didn't really know what to expect going into it. It's again another high school movie from the 80s, sort of about this school that is run down. It's in a very, very rough area. A lot of the students are considered to sort of be like these no hopers. And yeah, it pretty much follows Morgan Freeman as the principal of this school, who is possibly one of the most influential principals you'll ever see in a movie ever. Like, he wants to turn this school around, he wants to ditch the image that it's got, and he's one of the most, like I said, influential and motivating people you will see as a principal in any movie ever. And I don't want to spoil too much about it, but his performance alone is absolutely fantastic. I have another movie on this list that stars Morgan Freeman as well, which is actually my personal favorite Morgan Freeman performance. And Lean on Me is right up there as well. It's absolutely fantastic. It's just a great little high school movie from the 80s, and Morgan Freeman absolutely delivers in this movie, and I think it's fantastic. So, yeah, that was my number 8 pick, Lean on Me. So, coming in at number 7 for me is another movie set at high school in the 80s. There's quite a few of them on this list. is Lucas, starring Corey Haim. This again is another blind movie I went into knowing absolutely nothing about, but the cast really sold me on this. You've got Kerry Green, who played Andy in the Goonies. I think this is Winona Ryder's first movie as well. Charlie Sheen as well. Yeah, just an absolutely fantastic cast about sort of it's a coming of age movie. This movie for me, I think personally about relationships. Um, I'd almost say that this has got hints of Last American Virgin in it as well. Um, not to the extreme of how that movie ends, but yeah, this does touch on those things slightly. But yeah, it's just a fantastic little movie, and I can't really praise it enough. It's sort of about falling in love with the right or the wrong people, and it just really delves into that for me. It really is fantastic the way it touches on those things. And like I said, the cast is absolutely phenomenal. Great setting. I love those types of movies set at high schools in the 80s. I don't know why, I just tend to gravitate towards them. But for me, this is a fabulous one that doesn't get much love and doesn't get talked about enough. So, yeah, that is my next pick, Lucas. So, coming up at number 6 for me is a movie I've talked about quite a lot on this channel. It's popped up quite a few times. I know some people have seen this. I know some people haven't. Some people haven't even heard it. Again, that's why it's made the list. And that is Running on Empty, starring River Phoenix and Judd Hirsch. This again is a fantastic movie, a lot smaller movie as well in terms of scope and scale, but everything that needs to be felt is felt in this movie, and I have a fantastic time with it. It sort of follows this family, and the parents of the family are on the run from the FBI because they are sort of like political protest bombers, and they're part of this group, and they're constantly jumping from town to town, and they have two boys, and the boys are obviously jumping from school to school because this family's constantly on the run. It can't settle. Just can't settle anywhere, so it's uprooting all the time, moving and moving and moving on. And the eldest son, played by River Phoenix, is kind of like fed up of having to constantly chop and change schools all the time, and he wants to sort of break away from the family and live his own life. And Judd Hirsch, who plays his father, is very much adamant, like, no, we have to stick together. We're a family, we're a unit. Um, just believes in the family morals and just stick together no matter what through thick and thin. And how this movie ends is absolutely really great in my opinion. The way the characters sort of hit an arc and come to realizations as to what's happening and what's going on, and how dangerous the life is they're actually leading. It's absolutely really phenomenal. It was directed by Sidney Lumet as well, who made Network and 12 Angry Men. And this film is up there for me. It's no exception. It really is great. It's just a shame that it's so underseen in terms of, within the community as well. It's just a wonderful, wonderful little movie. So yeah, that's my next pick. Running on Empty, absolutely fantastic. Coming in at number 5 for me is the next Morgan Freeman movie that I was actually on about. I've talked about this a few times. I've got a Spanish copy of the Blu-ray. It's really, really hard to find, unfortunately. And that is Street Smart with Christopher Reeve. Now, like I said, this is the best I've ever seen Morgan Freeman. I've actually read some comments about this movie that Morgan Freeman provided and said he's always felt like he's never really sort of topped his performance in this movie, and that he would always really like to sort of do another role, sort of not similar, but in the sort of same vein, where he could really tap into it and really provide that energy that he does on camera in this film. And I 100% agree with him. It's not like a Morgan Freeman performance I've ever seen before. It's one of those performances where the actor just sort of disappears and you just see the character that they're playing. So in this movie, he pretty much plays a pimp called Fast Black, and Christopher Reeve plays this sort of reporter who's getting involved in this murder that's happened. And I think sort of Fast Black is like at the front and center, like the number one sort of suspect for this murder, and Christopher Reeve is just getting involved with the wrong people. Um, and it's just absolutely fantastic. I think the two of them have got great chemistry as well. There's a point in this movie where, not to spoil it, but someone gets stabbed in this movie, and it completely 100% caught me off guard, and I was like, whoa, completely taken back by it, and I was like, I did not see that coming. I just didn't expect it at all. And that's kind of like how I felt about the whole movie. It just was a massive surprise. I mean, Morgan Freeman and Christopher Reeve, that is an absolutely phenomenal pairing. And for me, this movie, it's criminal that it doesn't have a UK Blue release, because I think it's massively overdue on, and it's really, really, it's underseen, and it's fantastic. Yeah, the cast is phenomenal. I think the story's great. It's just one of those dirty, grimy 80's movies, those 80's crime movies. It's one of them with a phenomenal cast, and I just enjoy the hell out of Street Smart and think it's great. So yeah, that's my next pick, Street Smart. So coming up next at number 4 for me, again another movie set at high school, and that is Stand and Deliver with Lou Diamond Phillips. This very similar to Lean on Me, I think, in the same vein, but the story's a little bit different. It focuses on, again, another sort of school that has classes of the no hopers, as it were. You can't teach these kids anything. I know this movie sort of took it was inspiration for that South Park episode where Cartman's like, "How do I teach these kids?" This is pretty much where that episode of South Park got that inspiration from. It sort of follows a calculus teacher who's pretty much teaching these students of no hopers. He really does win them over through the progression of this movie, and is teaching them calculus, and they sort of end up on his side, and they're really into the lesson. And when it comes to the actual final test of the movie, when they get tested, every student ends up with the same score, and the teacher ends up becoming accused of cheating, and the students become accused of cheating, and there's this whole investigation that you really are riveted by. I won't dare spoil what happens, but I just thought it was another great home run of a movie for me. Fantastic 80's high school movie. Again, doesn't get talked about enough. And yeah, just absolutely loved it. Just thought it's another great sort of Lou Diamond Phillips movie as well. It's probably my favorite one he does. Like, I really love La Bamba, and Bats was fucking awful, but yeah, really underrated actor. The First Power as well. That was a movie I really dug. Um, but yeah, Stand and Deliver, absolutely fantastic. So coming in at number 3 for me is, again, another movie I talk about quite a lot. I know quite a few people have seen it. I've introduced people to this movie, and it's Clean and Sober with Michael Keaton, and again another Morgan Freeman movie as well. Um, yeah, just talk about one of those types of movies that gives an actor a chance to break the mold that they're sort of creating for themselves. I know Michael Keaton was pretty much like a comedic actor in the early 80's, all the way through, movies like Gung Ho, Mr. Mom, and in particular Beetlejuice. Now, this movie was made between Beetlejuice and Batman, I believe, and this for me won Michael Keaton the role of Batman. It was much more of a serious take, a serious acting role, in my opinion, dealing with drugs and rehabilitation and getting in debt. I just thought it was absolutely fantastic, and what a turn of the tide it was. It's only quite recently that I saw this movie, only a couple of years ago. I've watched it a couple of times, and I'm just hooked by it all the time. I'm just really riveted by it, and I just think it's a fantastic little movie. It's got a great score to it too. I love the bass line in that score when it opens. It's really cool. It just has this sort of jazz feel to it. But I enjoy this movie a lot. I think the cast is absolutely phenomenal as well. Really good. It's got a young Tate Donovan in there as well. It just touches on some really dark stuff. Considering at the time what type of actor Michael Keaton was. Like I said, with more of the comedic roles, this was just such a turn of the tide. And yeah, for me, it won him the role of Batman. because a lot of people sort of speculated at the time, is he the right choice? It wasn't really what they wanted at Batman, and then they saw the film and they were like, well, okay, you know, we were wrong. But this for me was sort of like the roots of that, the roots of giving that actor a good and different role to get their teeth into. And like I said, it's such a shame a lot of people didn't see this before Batman, because I think it's great. And yeah, that's why it's my number three pick. Yeah, clean and sober, absolutely fantastic. So coming in at number two for me is Heaven Help Us. Now in the UK, this has got a different title. I think it's called Catholic Boys in the UK. But I've never seen a Blu-ray or even a DVD release of this in the UK. This was a Region 1 import I got after having seen this movie on TMC back in the day. And talk about a phenomenal cast. You've got Andrew McCarthy, a young Patrick Dempsey in this as well. Kevin Dillon, Mary Stuart Masterson, Donald Sutherland, John Heard, Wallace Shaw's in this as well. Absolutely fantastic, phenomenal cast. And it's sort of more about these sort of five rebellious sort of Catholic students and the antics that they get up to. And you have the oppression of the teachers and all that's there as well. But the chemistry between these actors is absolutely fantastic. And what was the standout for me of this movie is its final sequence. There's a teacher at this school who is sort of really, really harsh with his teaching style and the way he sort of enforces punishment, shall we say. It leads to like some really uncomfortable stuff towards the end, but it has possibly one of the most satisfying endings ever, in that type of situation, you know, with the teachers and sort of Donald Sutherland as the sort of headmaster. I just really enjoyed the hell out of this movie. It's one of those types of movies where it's like set in made in the 80s, but set a few decades earlier. And I just had an absolute fantastic time with it. It's just great to see this sort of cast from like they had like supporting roles in other movies come together in this one movie, and I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. Stephen Jeffries as well, who plays Evil Ed in Fright Night, has a small role in this as well. But yeah, I had an absolutely fantastic time with it and just thought it was great. If you've not seen it, do yourself a favor and check it out, because I thought it was absolutely phenomenal. So yeah, that is Heaven Help Us. It goes by a different name in the UK. I think it's called Catholic Boys. But yeah, it's definitely worth seeking out and checking out, and that's why it's my number two. Absolutely fantastic movie. So coming in at number one for me is, again, it's another movie I've talked about quite a lot, and I just really, really enjoyed the hell out of this movie. It's got some of the best acting in it I've ever seen, and that is Talk Radio, directed by Oliver Stone. Um, this for me, I think this is the movie that Oliver Stone made between Platoon and Born on the 4th of July. Very underseen, very underrated. Um, it has Eric Bogosian in it, who is an actor I knew primarily from Under Siege 2, and I think he had a very small role in The Stuff, that horror movie that's on the Arrow label. I think he played one of the stock boys. Apart from that, I've hardly seen him in anything. I know more recently he was in Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler, but this for me is bar none the best acting I've seen from this actor. The monologue in this is one of the best monologues I've ever seen in a movie ever. It's frightening, it's scary. Um, the premise of this movie is it's quite simple. There's this radio station that's about to go national, and its presenter is probably one of the most Marmite presenters ever in radio. People tend to either love or hate this guy. Now, in his view, in his opinion, he tends to, he sees himself as someone who speaks the truth. He's no bullshit, direct to the point, you know, type of guy. And people either seem to love or hate that. But his ratings, either way, are through the roof, which is why his show's going national. And he's probably one of the best movie characters, in my opinion, because this guy isn't very likable. You know, you and the less likable a character is, I think it's the more fascinating to watch because you are just sort of completely hooked into what drives this guy. Like, what is this guy's ideologies about? What motivates this guy? How does he tick the way that he ticks? It's really truly fascinating, and it's like I said, it's one of the best shot movies. It's one of the best acted movies I've ever seen. The supporting cast in this is absolutely great as well. John C. McGinley, Michael Wincott, who is himself is an underrated actor in my opinion. I absolutely loved him in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and The Three Musketeers. Absolutely fantastic actor. Oh, and Top Dollar as well in The Crow. Yeah, one of the best actors, movie villains from the 90s in my opinion. But this for me, absolutely phenomenal movie. If you can find it, I highly recommend you pick it up because it was just riveting, and the powerhouse acting in this movie was absolutely phenomenal, and I absolutely loved it. So yeah, that's why it's my number one pick. If you've not seen it, check it out. It's absolutely fantastic. I think you can watch the monologue on YouTube, but if you don't want to spoil the film, want to go into it completely fresh, avoid that and just go into this completely blind because I think I have a really really good time with it. So yeah, that is my number one pick, Talk Radio. So yeah, those are my top 10 favorite movies from the 80s. I think you possibly may not have heard of or may not have seen. And yeah, I'm just say leave the video there and say thanks very much for watching. I'm going to be back with my top 10 underseen movies from the 90s as well. So yeah, like I say, I'm going to leave it there and say thanks very much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.